Hello, what an honor it is to do this toe reading for this woman who has walked many, many miles on this earth. Um, 93 years old. That's an amazing lifespan, and thank you for the privilege of reading your toes. So when I look at these toes, the first message that I get is that you've walked many, many miles, and not all of them have been some of them have been really, really hard things. You are a person who has wanted to shine, has wanted to receive recognition, but has felt scared of doing that, has sidestepped the limelight in many ways, and in many ways have given away your power. And I'm looking at the bend of these first toes and how they move over at quite an acute angle to either side, moving towards the baby toes. And that's actually one of the first things that I see when I see your toes is this acute bend, and then quite a bit of swelling here. So the question that I would pose to these toes is, where in your life have you given away your power? To whom have you given your power? Did they want that power? Or did you just give it because you thought you should? Or did they want it? And how did that feel to you? So these are some questions to ponder and some things that can be released. I'm a big fan of releasing through the toes, and that is done through intention as well as through manual manipulation, just that manual using of massage of the toes. So this, again, going back to this acute bend, this is the energy of bending over backwards to keep the peace, to stay safe. It's a survival mechanism, but it doesn't work for you. You've squished yourself into a box that never worked for you by giving away your power and by bending over backwards to keep the peace, keeping quiet to keep the peace, not doing what you desired to keep the peace. And when I say keep the peace, that could actually be to stay safe also. We have deep, deep survival mechanisms, and our bodies can feel unsafe if we feel like someone's going to yell or someone's going to say no. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually in danger, but not having peace, especially for women, especially for older women, can feel very, very threatening because we have been programmed to keep the peace. And I imagine as a woman of 93 years old, that was deeply programmed into you to keep the peace, be sweet, keep the peace. It's your job to keep the peace, keep things under control. And indeed, many times in our lifetimes, and certainly in your lifetime, we have um, actually not been socially safe or financially safe without a man to protect us, to provide financially for us, and even in both of our lifetimes, indeed, to even open a bank account. And so this needing to conform, this needing to protect yourself, to survive, to protect your children, um, is showing up deeply, deeply in your toes. Whether this is reality or whether this is perception based on societal beliefs, it is something that you believed and that you took on. So now let's talk about how to release that by gently massaging up this toe while gently pushing out on this toe with the intention of releasing that energy, calling back in your power. And you can see the motions that I'm doing with my hands. So rubbing up this side and pushing out this side, or oppositely, the other way. Interesting that I went that way on that. Okay. Um, So going both ways, actually, because instinctually I'm moving my hands both ways, and the energy that I'm seeing goes, so rubbing down this interior of the foot while rubbing up here, and then a rubbing up while gently pushing. So a motion that looks like this or this. And when we meet together, I'll show you this, and we'll do it. And another motion where you're going to brace on this side while pushing outward on the top. Just inviting the energy to flow in this way while releasing regret, releasing shame, releasing those things that you desired to do, say, think. When I yawn in these readings, it is a release of energy. The energy is already starting to release just by this awareness, just by having this toe reading happen. The release is already starting to happen. So just inviting the energy once again to release, calling back in your power, asking these questions of the toes. Where have you given away your power? Call it back. Where have you kept quiet to survive? Call it back. And this feeling of safety. These toes, this is your life path toe. This is your spirit path toe. And these are the toes that will conform to stay safe. So even some questions, what did you really want to do with your life? What was your dream? What was your dream career? What were some things that you desired to do, but you didn't feel able to do for whatever reason? Be that permission, be that financial. What were some things that you regret not doing? Releasing the shame around that, releasing the regret around that through intention, through the massage of these toes, and through these questions. And again, this is important. I'm having that energetic release, that sympathetic energetic release around that, and a little bit of tearing up. So this is important. This is an important part of your energetic evolution and release. You can let it go. It's okay. Everything that was for you in this life has happened for you, and no regrets. The nails appear to be relatively healthy, so that's a really good sign. And additionally, that's a sign that that things can be released. They're definitely stuck. These are, lifelong patterns, but the energy can be released. And when we meet in person, I would like to look at the condition of these nails also. Having some lotion or some oil, especially some oil with some essential oils. Lavender would be great for calming. Ravensara would be great for releasing. And just mixing that with the lotion or with the oil can help move this energy along as well, and feel very comfortable during the massage. So again, the idea is to push these toes this way, but you're going to want to support the foot here and inviting the energy to move. All right, let's talk about these other toes. When I see these other toes, they're all very, very much curved down. The least curved down one is this third toe, which is our action toes. Both feet, third toe is action toe. And the action toe, I want to talk about that just a little bit before we talk about these other toes that are pointed down. So this action toe, you are a person of action. You have taken action in your life. I'm going to just click ahead to this other slide. So this is your star chart. This is the chart that you were born with. And so I want to just show you as confirmation to this toe being the most upright toe, how you like to take action. So first of all, your rising sign here, This is where the sun was when on the day you were born, on the place you're born. The sun on the eastern horizon was in the sign of Leo. If you look up into the sky is divided into 12 slices of pie, if you will, each one corresponding to a zodiac. You do not need to know this. I'm going to explain this, and then we can go into more depth when we meet. But Leo is a fire sign. Fire signs are about taking action. Fire signs are about moving forward. And the sign of Leo is about being seen in moving forward. So this is a part of who you are, this desire to be seen. And perhaps that didn't feel in alignment for you, or it felt uncomfortable for you to be seen in the limelight. Or perhaps there was some drama involved because you did have this need to be seen. Leos do need to be seen. And, think about if you ever stirred up some drama. And this drama can look like, um, being ill. It can look like gossip. It can look like um, having, your children really show up big so that you can be seen. It can be being of extreme service to others at the expense of yourself, which would indicate some of this stuff going on with your first house. So uh, that's one place where um, being seen and taking action and being seen for that action is important to you. Your moon, which is your non-negotiable needs, it is your emotional needs, is in the fire sign of Sagittarius. There's 3 fire signs: Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. And so your moon is in the other sign of Sagittarius. So you have a lot of fire energy. And so this fire energy shows up in this fire toe. And this is the way you took action on the outside. So did you prioritize other people's priorities, needs, wants over your own? I ask you this because this toe is more upright than this toe, which is facing very much downward. And these toes look stiff and like they have a lot of blocked energy in them. So to release this energy, again, this is going to be a massage technique where you're pushing down. If this is the toe, you're running your finger along the bottom of that toe while pushing down across the top of the toe to just release blocked energy, the blocked energy of things that you wanted to do, but you didn't do, things that you did but you didn't really want to do. Again, you did it for keeping the peace because putting other people's needs above your own is considered superior, because you felt like you had no other choices. So let's release that energy of that, and also acknowledge the actions that you have taken. What are some of the things that you've done that you feel really proud about? What are some of the actions that you've taken that have really, truly been impactful in helping others? So we want to look at the shadow side and at the positive side because we want to anchor into the positive side, in the light side, so that the shadow side can be released. So often that shadow side, it's like gremlins behind the curtains. Once they're exposed, you see them for what they are, and they're not nearly as big of a deal as the monster you thought was hiding in your closet in that shadow side. I hope that that makes sense. Well, we're on that action toe. Let's look at this other action toe, which has a great deal of blocked energy in it. You likely put others first until you didn't. And then it is likely that you went inside yourself and wanted to pull in all that attention. You probably didn't have the tools to do that in a way that was empowering to you and empowering to others. So some questions to ask this action toe is, there is, again, okay, lots of energy already being released. In fact, by the time I come and visit you in a week and a half, A lot of this energy is all, especially if you do the massage, is already going to start releasing. And when we get together, there's a very important reason why moving this energy would be extremely beneficial um, for you. And we'll speak about that in person. So this toe here, a lot of blocked energy, dreams that you had that didn't happen, things that you really desired to do that you didn't for whatever reason that may be. Time to release that energy. You can really see the blocked energy. It's like these smaller toes came up and hit a wall, came up and hit a wall with all that fiery energy in you. Um, you have wanted to move forward, but women, especially older women that are fiery, have not been embraced by society, have not been, those tendencies have not been appreciated by society. And I see so many fire women, especially older women. And by older, I mean like my age, 50, a little younger and older, who just have continually come up against a wall in the desire to express yourself, in the desire to take action. And that's what that curving down is. And so releasing that, realizing that there will be other opportunities in some other dimension to take action on those dreams. Releasing the resentment. Resentment is a big emotion here. Resentment about several things, especially right now as I'm focusing in on those action toes around actions that you wanted, but you didn't feel like you could, and you actually felt stuck in not being able to do those things. All right. Next, let's talk about these communication toes. The communication toes are the second toes, and these are particularly curved and bent down. And I think this has a lot to do, like when we were talking about your chart, with this Leo energy where you desired to take action. One other thing that I wanted to point out that I didn't before, Mars is the planet of action. Mars is that driving energy, that moving forward energy. Mars has an arrow coming out of his head here. He goes after things, and he's in this second, you can see the numbers here, in this second house, which represents your values. You value action, you value moving forward. Here's another exercise. Just think back to your best memories. What were you doing? What was the action you were taking? Who are people that you have admired in your life, that you could, I imagine a lot of the people that you admire in your life are people who are going out and doing things. So just realize and release, so that awareness and the release around those things that you desired to take but didn't for whatever reason. All right. There were likely and are likely many things that you desire to communicate verbally or express through your body and your embodiment. And for a variety of reasons, both the fact that over here in your chart, Mercury is this little planet right here, who is the ruler of our communication and our expression, is in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is represented by the crab. The crab does not make noise. When people have their Mercury in Cancer, it can be difficult to pull out of what's in one's head and turn that into verbal communication. And what that can look like is staying silent, saying things and then feeling all sorts of shame around how you did or did not say it correctly, getting on that hamster wheel of, did I do it right? Did I do it right? So that doing it and saying it right, just on that hamster wheel. And it can also look like just communicating in a way that is not received by others, or in a way that you don't mean. It can also mean very soft communication, a very mothering and nurturing kind of communication. Whatever kind of communication you wanted is um, has not necessarily been what you've been able to do for whatever reason. Communication is actually a very high value for you. If this, I want you to just imagine, if this toe was straight and this toe was straight, it would likely be the same length or slightly longer than that first toe. You value communication. And so the family talking to you, sharing with you, sharing stories of life with you, and you in being able to communicate back in whatever way you can right now is important at this time. That being heard and being able to speak and then listening and hearing about some of these things is important. Remember, communication is listening and speaking. Communication goes far beyond the verbal expression. So here, because you have I'm going to go back to your chart here. Again, it's not necessarily important that you know all of this. I just want to bring it up as confirmation. I love that the stars and the toes confirm each other. Your sun is also in the sign of Cancer. So let's look at Cancer the crab and and see how this correlates with your life. So Cancer the crab, um, crabs move sideways across the sand. They don't move straight forward. So this could also have to do with this action. You are an action taker in other aspects of your chart, and yet Cancer moves sideways. The crab moves sideways. So a little bit of a circuitous route, if you will, to taking action. And that is also not always appreciated in society, because we're a point A to point B and take the shortest, most efficient route. And that may not have always been what you wanted to do, and not felt able to do that. Additionally, um, crabs, like we talked about, they don't make sound, and crabs will avoid confrontation if at all possible. So we see that showing up here in these toes, avoiding confrontation, keeping the peace. But if you corner a crab, those pincers will come out and it does not feel good. So a crab will only be cornered if it can't hide anymore, and then it will come out and it can be vicious. So, using that analogy, just think about how that has shown up in your life and in your communication. Have you spoken softly, been very nurturing, even if you wanted to be really direct, but you just spoke in this mothering way? And then, if you weren't being heard, or you weren't being understood, or your words were not receiving validation, did you come out and snap? And if that is so, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts and feelings about that? Do you have shame or regret around that? And the great news is it's never too late to release that energy. As you massage these toes, do not be surprised if thoughts and words come into your mind, either you or the person who is massaging them, because there's shared energy there. There may be thoughts and words that come to you, things that you were not able to put verbalization around before might come out. So just allow that. Just allow that. Don't give it any energetic, um, emotional attachment. Just allow that to flow out. Allow the words that you've wanted to speak but we're not able to speak for whatever reason, to flow out without judgment as you release that energy. Your fourth toes are your relationship toes, and your relationship toes also have some blocked energy. However, not as much blocked energy as these toes, your first three toes. So your right toe here is one other thing that I need to mention right here. Again, the right foot is your external and your left foot is internal. The way you have shown up externally is a little different than internally. This is completely normal. We often, especially as that Cancer the crab, um, we've got pretty soft, and I say we because I have a Cancer sun also and a Cancer Mercury, interestingly. Um, we are soft on the inside. We can be super hard, that crustacean, hard on the outside and soft on the inside, if we don't have the tools to understand how that opposition works together. And so we can be very protective of our inside because it's soft and vulnerable, thinking back to that crab. And so, um, you know, putting forth maybe this little harder exoskeleton of the crab kind of um, presentation to the outside, while on the inside, soft, sweet, and nurturing, and knowing that, and perhaps not feeling safe to express that, or the opposite, having so much of this softness on the outside and having uh, that vulnerability there. So just again, thinking about those two things. The art of toe reading is about the art of question asking. What are the toes communicating? And then asking the question so that you can release the energy and move forward in a different way, or in a way that is in alignment and is working for you. So your left foot is about your internal self. And so taking action, putting other people first, that's why this right toe is less curled over than the left toe that is curled under, because you've oftentimes taken action for others at the expense of self. And we've already talked about that quite a bit because that's showing up in several areas of your toes. When it comes to your relationships, so we can see that relationship wise, internally, there's a lot of blocked energy with your relationship with self. And so releasing the thoughts, feelings, and criticisms that you've had about yourself, they don't serve you. Release those. Just releasing that energy there. There's something more. Yeah, that massage of this toe is really going to help just release some of the shame and um, self-criticism that in many ways you're hanging onto like a suitcase. Just this little suitcase of shame that you don't dare let go, because in some ways it's actually kept you in a place of comfort. Now, that doesn't mean it's comfortable. Sometimes we can get very, very comfortable in dysfunction because it's familiar. So, comfort is familiarity, but not necessarily comfortable. It would be so much more comfortable to release that suitcase that is anchoring you down, that's heavy, that you're dragging around with you, just to let that go. In fact, when I'm seeing this, this may be part of what keeps you tethered to this earth, is that carrying around of that shame. It's an anchor that keeps you in this frequency. What would happen? What's the best thing that could happen if you released that? The weight that would be lifted off of these shoulders, right? These protrusions here. It's the weight on the shoulders. It's the burden. Imagine letting that go, releasing that burden. What would that look like? What are you afraid of? It's time to let that go so you can be free. When it comes to your relationship with others, you have shown others that you loved them through your actions, even if those actions were not always the actions that they received or felt as love. And so inviting the people that are closest to you to consider, in what ways did you show action that was perceived as love, and actions that were meant as love, protective actions that were not perceived or received as love and may have even felt strict or stern. So that would be a great exercise for family members and other close people to look at those things so that things can be reframed from both sides. This reframing of actions that were taken in the show of love and in the desire to be connected and in the desire to have close relations. Venus, right here, it's the circle with the cross on the bottom, is in the sign of Gemini. So this intellectual connection, very important to you. So what were some of the connections that you made that felt really aligned with you in your life? This intellectual connection. And this is still with you. So consider listening. What's coming into my mind, the energetic signature that I'm seeing in my mind is listening to books, just on Audible or another platform, listening to books or podcasts that are intellectually stimulating. That is important. And that's important in your relationships, this intellectual stimulation. All of the toes could use some massage, and the questions to ask these particular toes are, what are relationships that felt very aligned for you, and why? And what are relationships that you desired to be aligned but weren't? And you don't even need to ask why on that unless that feels appropriate to ask why on that. But just observing them and giving thanks for them. And then what were some relationships that you stayed in that were not aligned, that are relationships that really, in retrospect, could have been dropped just like that suitcase? And as a Cancer sun, relationship with family is extremely important. And sometimes we stay in dynamics with family members out of obligation and duty and ties of and familial ties, when if that person was not blood related, there's no way that we would be in a relationship with them because it is not a healthy relationship. And people who have a lot of Cancer in their chart, Cancer the crab in the zodiac in their chart, tend to have that tendency to stay in relationships long after they needed to expire. So what relationships did you stay in out of obligation, out of survival instinct, for security, that really are relationships that could have gone? And an exercise that you can do is to replay that in your mind. What would you do with the knowledge that you have now? Replaying that in your mind and dropping that relationship. So you're just energetically dropping that suitcase. And this is especially potent if you do this while you rub these toes. And with these toes, just this back and forth motion. So getting the toe between your index finger and your thumb and just gently rubbing those toes to release that energy. And the final toe are these toes, which are prosperity and trust toes. And you've learned through your life that there are many people that you cannot trust, and perhaps including yourself, because you kept putting yourself second, bending over backwards for others at the expense of self. And so rubbing these toes in the same way that you would these relationship toes, to just release, to forgive. That's the word, to forgive yourself and others for not being trustworthy. And this is especially for your left toe, just really forgiving yourself for not always being trustworthy for yourself. You have here on the edge of the exterior part of your toe, you've got these protrusions here. They're not huge, but they are significant. And this indicates a global perspective. You have big ideas. You had very big ideas that perhaps you are not able to take action on. And I just want to look at your chart here really quickly. This idea of this globalness, this humanity. I'm seeing this because Jupiter is the one that looks like a 4, is the expander. Jupiter expands everything. Jupiter is the planet of luck, and it's in your 11th house of communities, hopes, and dreams. So consider, what are the hopes and dreams that you have accomplished, and the ones that stayed hopes and dreams. Perhaps reliving those in your mind, or imagining those dreams in your mind. Your mind cannot, if you're playing, if you're imagining, can't tell the difference between reality and pretend. That's how hypnosis works. That's how visualization works, is that it can't tell the difference. And so some visualization would be really nice for you to do, especially as you rub the 5th toe and up on this protrusion on the outside. So rubbing up and then coming down, rubbing up and then coming down. And don't get too worried about the motions. It's really just about moving that energy. So as a 93-year-old person, first of all, thank you for the blessings that you have offered to humanity in the 93 years that you've lived on the planet. Second, it is never too late to shift the energy, out. Just let that energy go that does not serve you. They're just backpacks with stones in it, or suitcases that you're carrying around. Release those suitcases. If that visualization works for you, just releasing. And I recommend this for your family and those that are closer to you too. Release those suitcases and release those anchors that just keep you stuck in this energy. The manual massage is going to be very, very good for you, and is an important part of this reading in releasing this energy. I really look forward to seeing you, to answering your questions, to talking to you, and to doing some massage work on these toes. Please reach out if you have any questions at all. And thank you again for the honor of reading these toes.